It's that time again, the time where I review SpongeBob, Season 5. Let's go. Season 5 is incredibly similar to Season 4 in terms of quality and content, so there's not a lot of new things to say here, so let's just get into the ranking. Number 41, Whatever Happened to SpongeBob. It's a really bad episode. In fact, it's the lowest rated episode I have so far. It's very mean-spirited, not funny at all, and incredibly long. But it did give us this one frame. It's disgusting. Number 40, Pat No Pay. Patrick doesn't pay for his food and then destroys the Krusty Krab. I mean, that's the concept of the episode, and it doesn't get any better from that. To Save a Squirrel is also a really bad episode. Just SpongeBob and Patrick trying to eat each other, and I guess it's a Sandy episode. She's barely in it. It sucks. Goo Goo Gas. This episode, it was so bad it aired like 2 years after the Season 5 even it was in production. But yeah, it's part of Season 5 still, even though it came out 2 years later. They become babies, and that's it. That's not really funny or interesting. It's just kind of weird and gross. Number 37, A Flea in Her Dome. Just a weird flea that just jumps from Sandy, Patrick to SpongeBob, back to Sandy, Patrick, SpongeBob, over and over and over again. Repetition is the name of the game, and it's not funny. Atlantis SquarePants is an episode that is the longest in the entire season, and it is incredibly dull, and it's a really, really bad musical. I usually like musical episodes, but they even got David Bowie as an actor, and he doesn't sing a single song. Like, what are you doing, SpongeBob? This episode is just bad, just bland, sucks, and just uninteresting entirely, and it's incredibly long. Number 35, Fungus Among Us. It's a gross episode. Not funny, just gross. Boat Smarts. Remember the Krusty Krab training video? Well, imagine that without any charm and incredibly shorter and does nothing but just showcases that SpongeBob's an asshole. That's it. To Love a Patty. SpongeBob kills a bunch of scallops or clams to save a moldy sandwich. I don't think I have to say any more than that. Waiting. SpongeBob waits. Wait, let me say something else? There's nothing else to this episode. He's waiting for a toy. That's it. The Krusty Plate. This is one of those episodes that's short and has nothing going on for it, so yeah. Rise and Shine. It's just Patrick getting ready for a day. It's not really entertaining. It's really boring. Like, what were they thinking? Sing a Song of Patrick. Patrick makes a bad song. That's it. The Battle of Bikini Bottom. This ain't no Battle for Bikini Bottom video game. This is just a gross out episode that's... Yeah, gross out's not that funny, so I don't really find this episode that great. Black and Sponge. SpongeBob gets a black eye, and it's alright. Nothing else to say. Not really that funny, but nothing bad either. Just there, right in the middle. Stanley S. SquarePants. SpongeBob has a cousin who looks like this. And, yeah, it has okay ideas, but the execution is very sloppy. The Two Faces of Squidward. This episode I was very underwhelmed by, especially since I was kind of hyped up about it. It's a very well-known episode. The problem is there's way too much setup in order to get the part where Squidward gets handsome, and then it's over like that. So overall, this episode kind of failed miserably in that department, I should say. Mermaid Man versus SpongeBob. The only Mermaid Man, well, they're technically had me a little cameo in one other episode. But yeah, this is the only episode of them in the entire season, I should say. And it's alright. It could be better, though. Band in Bikini Bottom. This is one of those episodes that has a good premise, but it takes forever to get to the actual good part. So it's one of those things that's killed by its setup. Breath Fresh as Squidward. This is an episode I didn't expect to like, but I actually think that it did a pretty good job in execution. It starts off as a kind of Squidward torture porn, but then Squidward goes back at SpongeBob when he has the SpongeBob's personality. In the end, they double down on the joke of making everyone's personality Squidward. So in the end, it kind of works, but it could have been better. Nightlight. It's an alright episode. It has a nice charm to it, but it's nothing too spectacular. Spongehenge. I actually like this episode. It's very surreal and kind of dark, but that's kind of what makes it for me. It's a very otherworldly episode, and it's kind of a non-canon episode, so I don't really take it seriously. Some people are like, oh, this episode ruined SpongeBob, but it's obviously not meant to be taken seriously. Blackjack. This episode is basically the bully episode from Season 3. That was Season 3, with flats, but worse. SpongeBob versus the Patty Gadget. It's an alright episode and has a unique concept. Not bad. Good Ol' What's His Name is a pretty funny episode where Squidward tries to figure out the name of one guy to win a contest that Mr. Krabs throws. I like the idea, though I feel like it could have been taken a step further. New Digs. Surprisingly, it works out pretty well, despite the fact the concept is kind of weird where SpongeBob tries to live the Krusty Krab, and it ends up actually having quite a few good jokes. Le Big Switch. SpongeBob switches with a French chef, and yeah, it's about as funny as that concept sounds. Bucket Sweet Bucket. I feel like this episode could have been one step beyond, been a really good episode, but for what it is, I think it's pretty funny, especially when Squidward just paints the chum bucket because he thinks the artwork of SpongeBob and Patrick is not satisfactory. I don't know why that's really funny to me. Slimy Dancing is a very interesting episode. In fact, what makes it for me is the end joke, where Squidward is forfeited from the competition for cheating, but with SpongeBob, and then turns out everyone else was cheating doing the exact same thing, and I don't know why that joke really is funny, especially the way it's executed. So I recommend watching it just for that one joke. The Donut of Shame. This is a pretty good episode where Patrick tries to eat a donut, but then realizes that it's SpongeBob's donuts, and then the answer revealed that it actually was his donut the whole time. It's actually pretty well executed, based off my description. It's pretty bad, though. The Inmates of Summer features a celebrity guest cameo, and it's about SpongeBob and Patrick going to jail when they think it's a summer camp. That's just a funny concept in general. Picture Day is an alright episode. I guess I liked it enough to put it at number 10. SpongeBob goes to take a picture, and yeah, it works pretty well for what it is. Pest of the West, just a southern SpongeBob episode, and you know what? It works. Money Talks. Mr. Krabs, for some reason, wants money to talk to him, and when it does, they're like, you suck and spend us, so it ends up being a nightmare for the crustacean. There's a lot of jokes along with it. It's a very well-written episode. I recommend watching it. The Krusty Sponge. Mr. Krabs becomes meta and decides he wants to be like Nickelodeon and start selling out SpongeBob merchandise. So it's a very meta episode, and that's why it's a great episode. Spy Buddies. It's a pretty good episode about SpongeBob and Patrick becoming spies to spy on Plankton, and the ending actually makes the episode better when you rewatch it, because you realize that some of the things that certain characters do makes more sense when you see the ending, which is actually kind of cleverly written, so this episode, it gets a thumbs up for me. 20,000 Patties Under the Sea is a pretty great episode. It has a lot of great jokes, like bye Squidward, and when Plankton roasts an entire family, and it's just a fun setup in general. SpongeBob and Patrick selling Krabby Patties on the go. Crabs a la Mode is a pretty great episode. It's one of the episodes I remember really liking as a kid, and I still enjoy it as an adult. It's just a really fun concept about thermostat changing the entire weather atmosphere of the Krusty Krab. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's a cartoon, so it doesn't really need to. Friend or Foe is a great episode. It's actually a backstory canonical episode, if that makes any sense, showing Plankton and Mr. Krabs' early friendship, how they became rivals, and how the Krusty Krab formula was born. So it's a great episode just for that alone, and it's, honestly, if you're a SpongeBob fan, and you want to know about these characters, then this is a must-watch episode. The Original Fry Cook. This episode is just a really good episode. We get to see the original fry cook that came before SpongeBob and some history behind the Krusty Krab. You can see like a lot of history videos, and this gives a lot of insight to a bunch of the characters, and it's just a nice, fun episode. And the original fry cook guy, he's pretty cool. I like him. Number 1 is Roller Cowards. Now, this is the only episode that I recall that has Larry the Lobster in it, and if you recall, Larry the Lobster makes every episode better. This episode is just really good. Like, it's easily the best of Season 5 by a landslide. In fact, I might rate it a 10 if it's not on the screen already, because there's plenty of great jokes, the concept is great, and it's something a lot of kids relate to, including me, because I'm not a big roller coaster fan, even though I like theme parks. Well, that is it for Season 5. Let me know what you guys think about this video, and what you think about Season 5 in general in the comments, and I'll see you next time for when we cover SpongeBob Season 6, or whatever else comes next. See you then. Hey, did you know I have a book? In fact, I have multiple books. They're available on Amazon. There should be a link in the description. However, I do have the digital versions on my Patreon, so if you want to support me and read what I have written, they're mostly kids' books, but you might enjoy it. After all, we all like SpongeBob, or whatever your video you're watching. I might reuse this clip. Then you can make sure to check it out. And thank you.